Hi, my name is Sumati Sparks, and thanks for joining Romantic Love Without Ownership as part of the Global Heart Dance Festival. I'm so happy you're here. You'll want to stay for this class if you want to learn to let go of possessiveness and jealousy, codependency, insecurity, victim mentality, or any of those survival instincts that come up when someone really matters to you, so that you can love freely and set your partners to love freely as well and to express their love and passion fully in the world. I know it may sound counterintuitive, but what I've learned from 25 years of practicing open relationships and helping others do the same is that the more we can set our partners free to be who they want to be in the world, the more they'll appreciate us and want to be with us. See, we have a tendency to want to control our partner's behavior so that they don't hurt us. But I'm going to give you some tools and some paradigm shifts in this class to help you dance with the feelings that come up for you when someone who matters to you shines their light on someone else. So let's dig in. First, I want to share some theory, and then I'll take you through 3 powerful processes that will give you an experience of healing and empowerment. And all of these processes involve writing, so please, if you don't have a journal next to you now, please pause this video and go grab a journal and a pen with plenty of paper and come back on when you have it. So please have your notepad close by. So the first paradigm shift that I want to teach you is knowing that painful feelings are not only survivable, but can be touchstones to profound transformation. Your most painful feelings can take you to the most profound transformation. Profound transformation almost always seems to be on the other side of discomfort, suffering, pain. So when we can learn to switch our minds to see these experiences as touchstones to our growth, we can almost get to a point where we look forward to having these experiences that we might have called negative in the past. So if you can change your relationship with fear, insecurity, possessiveness from something you try to avoid or something that you judge about yourself or feel shame about, to instead thinking of them as these amazing opportunities to ascend to the next level of your personal evolution, then you will eventually almost look forward to events that trigger these feelings in you. And I'll give you an example from my own life. I was in a relationship with an openly polyamorous man who was married, and after the first year of our relationship, his wife got into another relationship, and he and I became like core partners, anchor partners, or primary partners, if you will. And after 3 years of that, he and his wife decided to get back together and be more primary. He wasn't breaking up with me, but I felt like I was being demoted from primary partner back to I'm just his lover after his relationship with his wife. And it was very painful for me, and it triggered some really deep core wounds in myself around not being wanted. That's like the most core wound in myself, is not feeling wanted. And I went into a real dark night of the soul around that. But when I came out the other side, I threw myself into learning about how to dance with those dark core wounds, the places in yourself that got installed when we're really, really young, in the first 3, 4, 5 years of our life, that seem to like lead us around by the nose for the rest of our life, that inform our choices around relationship and sexual attraction. And I was able to learn how to transform that feeling into a way that I could actually serve the world. And I found my life purpose through diving into that core feeling. And I am who I am today because of that experience. Okay, so let's move on to paradigm shift number 2. It's never your partner's job to keep you from feeling sad, afraid, jealous, or feeling anything for that matter. So this doesn't mean that you should accept cruel or insensitive behavior from a partner. It just means I'm inviting you to let them off the hook from having to navigate your emotional minefields. So if they accidentally push your button, remember that the button is yours. If you didn't have the button, it wouldn't get pushed. So for example, if somebody came up to me and says, "Oh, you look like you gained weight," which I have during the pandemic. If someone said you look like you gained weight, I would feel really insulted by that, and I'd be really mad at them for saying that to me. But if I was somebody who had trouble putting on weight, and I know people like that, and somebody came up and said you look like you gained weight, they would probably say, "Oh, thank you. I guess this new thing I'm doing has worked." So it really just depends on what your buttons are. Something that we might assume would insult everyone wouldn't insult somebody who is trying to put on weight. So that's just a perspective shift. That if somebody accidentally says something to you that really feels hurtful, let them off the hook. You don't know what was going on for them. You don't know what their assumptions were. It's your button. And maybe you can investigate and find out, like, what did you mean by that? You can also just say, "Ouch, that hurt. Can you tell me what you meant?" So you can control your growth, but you can't control what your partners say or do. In other words, your feelings are your own. So give up blaming today, once and for all. No more blaming. I want you to take full responsibility for all your feelings. And learn to communicate with I statements about how you feel. So if you haven't already learned some basic communication systems such as NVC or nonviolent communication, please take a class in that. There are all kinds of free information on the internet about nonviolent communication. And this is where you learn to orient your communication around your own experience and not what others do. So instead of saying, "You made me feel jealous," you would say, "When you told me that you were going to spend my birthday with your other lover, I felt really hurt because my birthday is really important to me and it has meaning to me, and my request is that you spend your birthday with me." So you see how I flipped that around to my own experience, and I owned it, and I made it a request, a clear request, and I wasn't charged. I didn't say, "You asshole, you didn't think about me, how could you be so thoughtless?" I just made it about my own experience of feeling hurt and letting my partner know that my birthdays are important to me. Because when you seek more to understand than to be understood, you'll receive what it is you're seeking. So when we try so hard to get validation, love, and reassurance from our partners, we stay in a state of grasping, and there's never enough. We mistakenly think we'll be happy if we can just get our partners to understand what we need. But the flawed premise here is that your happiness comes from another person. Your happiness will never come from how another person behaves. It only comes from you when you source who you really are. And I'll talk more about that later, about who we really are. So if we can get our needs met from ourselves and from a variety of people in our life, spread throughout our community, we'll discover that what we've been looking for all along is within us. And from that place of wholeness, we can love because it's just the most natural thing for a human being to do. And we can stop putting demands on our partner to be the parent we never had. I mean, most of us had less than perfect parents. And we were left looking for that person who will see us and accept us exactly as we are. But we need to give up ever finding that, because all adults are flawed. You are the only one who can be that ideal parent that you never had. And we'll get a chance to dive a little into that more later as well. Okay, so paradigm shift number 3. When you notice you're getting triggered or having any kind of strong negative experience, try to find out what the feeling is trying to teach you. Usually it's something that you want, but you haven't clearly asked for. So you'll need to learn to ask for it from appropriate people in a way that can be heard. But in order to figure out what you need to ask for, the best first step is to notice what sensations are happening in your body. Is there any way you can have a person with you, either in person or even on Zoom or on the phone? Because I know during the pandemic, sometimes it's hard to have people physically with you. But if you can have somebody with you while you're doing this practice, it's so much more effective than doing it alone. But not the person whose behavior instigated your trigger. So once you have someone to talk to, tell them where you are feeling the sensation in your body. Say it out loud. Ask your witness friend to just hold this space for you without giving advice or trying to fix you. And if you want to be touched or held, ask for that. And we're going to practice this today and take it to another deeper level to give you an opportunity to do a big piece of healing work today. So let me move on now to what's going on within us when we feel possessive of our beloveds. I've found that there are basically 4 unhelpful beliefs that human beings have that lead us to trying to cling to or control our partner's behavior. So I'll go over those 4 unhelpful beliefs, and then I'll take you through some processes that will begin to rewire your brain so you're less run by these beliefs. Okay, so the first belief is I am not enough, or insecurity. So an example of this would be if my partner wants to have a relationship with someone else. I mean, even if you're not polyamorous and your partner just wants to learn tennis with somebody else, it could be something as simple as that. It can trigger an insecurity in us where we feel like I'm not enough. You know, I'm not good enough at tennis, or I'm not a good enough lover, or I'm not pretty enough, tall enough, thin enough, well hung enough. You know, whatever that insecurity is, we think that it has something to do with us, that our partner wants to shine their light on another person. And so we're going to do an exercise after I explain all these 4 basic unhelpful beliefs that will allow us to explore what's going on underneath that insecurity. Okay, the second unhelpful belief is there isn't enough for me, or scarcity mentality. So again, if our partner wants to learn to play tennis with someone else, we might get really contracted and afraid that they won't be around as much. They won't be home as much. We won't get our afternoons with them, or we won't get to do something with them that we're used to doing. Or if our partner wants to date someone else, we'll be afraid that we won't get every night with them. We won't get to spend every night with them cuddling because our nervous systems really love that feeling of having their body next to ours. And we'll be afraid that we'll lose something. There won't be enough. So we're going to do an exercise in a moment that helps us be clear about, that helps us learn how to create more abundance of connections in our life so that we won't have to feel any scarcity of love. Okay, and the third unhelpful belief is I can't live without you. And this is codependency or fear of abandonment. And if I asked you, can you live without your partner? You'd probably say, well, yeah, of course I can. But when there's the threat of them leaving, it can feel like that deep in our core from our wounded childhood. It can feel like we're going to die without them. And sometimes we'll do anything to keep our partner. We'll abandon ourselves. We'll take abuse from them, whether it's verbal or physical, or we'll put up with a lot of inconsiderate behavior just because we're afraid of that feeling of losing them, that feeling of grief, or the feeling of being alone. So we're going to do an exercise that allows us to get in touch with those core wounds within us, underlying that fear of abandonment or that fear of being alone. Okay, the fourth and final unhelpful belief that leads to us wanting to cling to our partners or possess them or try to control them is it's not fair. So when we say it's not fair, we're playing the victim. We're not accepting what is. My favorite example of this is there's this movie called, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's with Whitney Houston. And anyway, it doesn't matter the name. There's a movie, and this woman in the movie, her husband has an affair, and there's an assumption of monogamy with all the characters in this movie. So her husband has an affair with his younger secretary, and the wife takes all of his belongings and throws them into his hot convertible car, drives it out into the driveway, and sets the car and all his clothes and everything on fire. And the audience cheers because they feel like this is justifiable anger. Of course she's going to destroy all of his belongings because he was the bad guy for having this affair and cheating on her and making her feel like, the poor, sad older woman who's not loved anymore. And of course she was a beautiful actress who was like maybe in her early 40s. She still had lots of beauty and life ahead of her. But of course the audience all cheered and, egged on her to burn all of his stuff. So this is an example of playing the victim, the justified victim. Whenever we play the victim, and we hold a resentment towards somebody. Now, I learned this in 12-step programs. They say that resentments are the number one killer of addicts because the word resent, means over again, like repeat means to do over. And zentment comes from the etymology or the root of the word is to feel. So when we have a resentment, we feel the same hurt over and over again. So for example, when her husband told her, or she found out he's having an affair, she felt really hurt. That's normal. It's normal to feel pain when you lose somebody, when you lose a partner or someone dies or someone breaks up with you. It's totally normal to feel pain. And that's a Buddhist concept. The difference between pain and suffering is that as human beings, we're always going to feel pain. But we have to feel it. We have to feel it fully and let it move through us. Again, we want to get people around us to hold us, to be with us while we cry. And there's a lot of religious traditions where people, like in the Jewish tradition, they sit in Shiva for a certain number of days when someone dies, and people come over and sit with you and bring you food because they're honoring that it's normal to have grief and sadness when there's loss. But what we tend to do is we put a story on top of the loss and we say, I'm the victim. So I'm the victim here because my husband was bad and wrong for having an affair. And we tell that story over and over in our head. And I did this in the previous example when my polyamorous married partner decided to become primary again with his wife. And what I felt like was a demotion. I became the girlfriend or the secondary again. And I made up a story that I was the victim, that he should have always held me as his primary, and he should have never changed his mind. He's not allowed to ever love differently than how he first loved. I wanted to control him and make him love me the same way forever. And so I held on to that victim place for weeks. I was having trouble sleeping until I finally had that breakthrough, and I realized that it was my mind telling me that I'm the victim. The hurt and the pain happened, and yes, I felt sad. I cried. I wasn't able to make the transition to going back to being a secondary. I had to separate from that relationship in order to heal. But to repeat the victim story, that he was wrong, that he hurt me, how could he do this to me after all I've given to him? That's where I suffer. So the pain continues on for a long, long time because I made that story up. I wasn't accepting what is. Now, I want to talk about that concept for a moment, accepting what is. So we live in this amazing, magical universe, right? I mean, do you know how the earth was created? Or have you ever gone into like a rainforest? Isn't it just amazing how the ecosystem is so perfect? There's this canopy, whole life going on, this whole world going on in the canopy. There's a whole ecosystem going on in the middle of the rainforest, and then down in the floor, there's a whole nother ecosystem going on. So like when a tree falls, moss and all these things grow out of the tree, and bugs come in and they feed the mammals, and there's just this whole life going on. Did you create that? Do you know how that was created? And that's just one example. I mean, think about the universe, the moon and the stars, and where the planet Earth is in relation to the Milky Way and all the universes out there. I mean, it's such a vast place, and our little ouchies that we get from our day-to-day relationships are like not even a speck in the scheme of things. So when we don't accept what is, we're thinking that we somehow control the universe, that we somehow control how things play out. And I can tell you, when you surrender to what is, and you feel everything that comes up from that, you'll release it so much quicker, and you'll go on to such a more happy life. So we're going to end this class today with an activity or a process around getting to know who we really are. Because when we can tap into that unconditional love that we truly are, there's no room for jealousy or possessiveness. We're just being that love, and that we're living from that place of surrender where we know there's enough for everyone. Okay, so enough of me talking about the theory. I want to now go into some processes for you that will hopefully give you a chance to embody some of these teachings and come away today with a real experience of transformation and empowerment. But first, I need to take a drink of water. So you can take a deep breath or a drink of water as well. Okay. All right, so the first exercise is hopefully to help you be able to have an abundance of love and connection in your life, so that you're not dependent upon one partner to be everything to you. I mean, our default society tells us we need to find that one person. There's even a class called Calling in the One. Like, there's supposed to be this one person who, like, you know, is our best friend, our confidant, our business partner, our co-parent, our sleeping partner. One of my colleagues talked about even a sleeping partner is kind of a unique person, because we can't always sleep well with everyone. Sometimes we want them to be our, athletic or recreational or activity buddy, and we're putting so much pressure on this one person. And I'm not saying that you have to be polyamorous, but we can have partners that do many different things for us. We can have partners that so I know some polyamorous people that have kink partners that do kinky types of play, where their nesting partner, their primary partner, the one they live with, is not into that. So that's an example. I know people who are bisexual, and they may be married to somebody of one gender, but they want to have relationships with the other gender as well. And even lots of monogamous or monogamish people. And I'll give you an example of a monogamish person I know who has lots of different connections. So they have a primary partner who they live with, and their agreement with that partner is that they don't do any penetrative activities with another person. So that includes kissing with tongue. But they can kiss other people with their lips, even long kisses. Even if it's more than just a greeting, like a peck, they can actually have really sweet, kind of tantric, sensual, slow lip kisses with other people. They have agreed that it's okay to cuddle with your clothes on with another person. So they have cuddle dates with other people where they can get their touch needs met and not put all their need for touch on their one partner. And they've gotten really good with trusting each other, with holding their boundaries, and knowing that they really are going to keep to these agreements. So they can go off and have a cuddle with somebody else, maybe cuddle and watch a movie, or just simply cuddle to feel that yummy oxytocin that comes from touch and connection and full body connection. And even a new person, cuddling with a new person, can bring kind of a different feeling, different hormones in your body. They also have other friends that they have deep, intimate conversations with where they can just share anything. They have friends that they do Tantra with. And Tantra, white Tantra can be done with your clothes on, where you're not even touching the other person. There's just breath work that happens. And there's a process of seeing the divine in the other person. And this is all through energy and mind. And you can have beautiful, profound, energetic sex, really, in a way, with another person without ever touching them or removing your clothes. So the sky is the limit with how much intimacy we can have in our lives, but it just takes asking for it. It takes first telling your partner, if you don't already have an agreement like this with your partner, and your partner's expecting you to never share any kind of true intimacy with another person, you have to start by letting your partner know what you want. So let's just role play that for a moment. All right, take a deep breath. And imagine telling your partner, I have something I want to ask you. Is this a good time? Sometimes we expect our partner to just be available for any time we want to ask them anything. They should just drop everything and listen. But it's important to create sovereignty with your partner where you can kind of separate from each other from time to time and ask them for their permission, if this is a good time for them to hear what's going on for you. That's one practice I want to invite you to do, is to begin to ask your partner, can I share with you something crazy and horrible I heard on the news? Because they might not want to hear it in that moment. And give them a chance to say no, and don't take it personally if they say no. So first start by saying, hey, blank, whatever their name is, I want to request something from you. I want to make a request. Is this a good time? And if they say yes, just take a deep breath and sit down and say, I would like to have people that I see and that I cuddle with our clothes on. We don't kiss. We don't have sex. We don't exchange in erotic energy. We just cuddle. How do you feel about that? So how does that feel in your body when you imagine asking your partner for that? Notice how that feels for you, and notice if you would say it in a little bit of a different way. Or maybe you already have an open relationship, or you're monogamish, and you already allow cuddling with each other. Maybe you want to take it to a new level. Maybe you just want to tell your partner something like, so my request is that we consider opening our relationship more to include having overnights with our other lovers. How do you feel about that? So I want you to imagine saying something like that to your partner, and imagine the feelings in your body that come up with how you imagine their response to be. Because so often we're afraid to ask for what we want because we think it might hurt the other person, but I call BS on that. I don't think it's because you're afraid you're going to hurt your other partner. I think it's because you're afraid of your own feelings around sitting with your own discomfort, knowing that they're hurting. So stay with your own discomfort for a moment. Imagine asking your partner something scary, like something that could threaten their security, possibly, where they feel like they own you, you're their partner, that you're the only one that they get to do XYZ with. So whether it's, I want to watch some Netflix series with another person. You know how a lot of us have those special series that we only watch with our partner. So I want to watch this, one of these episodes with my other friend. Or it could be as much as I want to stop using condoms with one of my partners, or anything in between. So pick one of those requests that you would want to ask your partner that you think might threaten their security or their possessiveness or ownership with you. And if you don't have a partner, imagine your last relationship or a future relationship. Imagine what it would be like. Okay, so once you have that request in your head that you're going to ask, take a moment to breathe and you've asked your partner to sit down with you because you want to request something of them. And now you can say it out loud if you're alone. Go ahead and make that request, or just in your head if you can't. But go ahead and make that request now of your partner. I'll give you a moment. Okay, and now imagine how it's feeling in your body to sit with their receiving your request. Their response is completely separate from you. So sit with your own experience. Because this is your truth. This is something that you really want. Okay? Now your partner might say no to it, but this just gives you an opportunity to negotiate getting your need met in some other way. But the first step is to separate your feelings and your requests from your partner's response. So you just did that now in your imagination, and this will give you an opportunity to go and practice that with your partner another time. Sit with their response no matter what it is. Okay? So that's your first activity for the day. All right, let's move on to activity number 2. So this is an activity where we're going to experience sensations in our body based on some old experience that we've had in the past from childhood that keeps us from being able to really set our partner free. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to have you close your eyes and remember an experience in your body that didn't feel very comfortable. And then I'm going to have you amplify it until you really feel it again in an intense way, as much as you can re-experience it. And then I'm going to have you notice in your body where is the biggest sensation, where you feel it. It could be in your gut, it could be in your throat, it could be in your heart, it could be a tingling sensation through your arms, it could be going down your legs into your feet, or it could be a buzzing in your ears, anything at all. Okay? So I'm going to have you notice where the strongest sensation is in your body, and then I'm going to have you exaggerate that sensation. So if it's a tingling in your hands and arms, I'd have you shake. If it's a piercing in your gut, I'd have you bend over, like double over. If it's a tightness, a constriction in your throat, I might have you exaggerate that constriction so that you're almost gagging. And I'll have you amplify that exaggerated physical position for just a few seconds. And then on the count of 3, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to have you move into the opposite physical position. So for example, if you're doubled over, I'll have you open up your whole entire, your gut, your solar plexus, and just completely open it up and breathe. If you've been shaking your arms really fast, I'll have you go to stillness. If you've been constricting your throat, I'll have you open your throat and maybe even make a sound if you're alone. So we'll go into the opposite position from where you were feeling the pain. Okay, I hope you're with me. All right, so let's start. Sit comfortably or lie comfortably if you're laying down. And I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And we'll do that 3 times. Okay, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And the last time, I want you to make a big sound when you exhale. In through your nose, and out through your mouth. Okay, and now gently close your eyes and keep breathing. And I want you to try to remember an experience when you felt like you weren't enough, or you felt really insecure. A current partner or a recent experience with some other person you have in your life, a boss, a friend, a relative, where they wanted to spend time with someone else, or they replaced you, or they didn't invite you to a party, or any time in your life, maybe you saw an event on social media that you weren't invited to, or any time when you felt insecure or that you weren't wanted or you weren't enough. You know, I wasn't thin enough, I wasn't blonde enough, I wasn't buff enough, I wasn't young enough. Okay, once you have that memory, I want you to try to feel it again. Feel the same feeling that you had when this thing first happened. Go back to that feeling in your body. And I want you to amplify the feeling. Really get into it like it just happened right now. Make it big. A little bit bigger. Okay, now notice where in your body you feel it. Where are you most feeling this sensation-wise in your body? Is it in your gut? Is it in your heart, your throat, your feet, your hands, your shoulders, your neck, your head? Where are you feeling it? Just notice. Okay, now that you've found it in your body, I want you to exaggerate that sensation. Go into it all the way. Amplify it. Make it huge. Constrict it. Bring it in. Whatever it is, just amplify it. Exaggerate it. Take it a little bit more intense. Exaggerate that sensation in your body all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. And on the count of 3, we're going to do the opposite physical pose. 1, 2, 3. Now open your throat or open your chest or your gut. Open it up and breathe. Go into the opposite sensation. Go into it all the way. The opposite pose, the opposite posture. And just notice how that feels. Hold it just for another few seconds. Okay, and let go and go back to neutral. And you can open your eyes if you haven't yet. And I want you to take your journal and your pen and write down anything that you noticed from anything through this process, from having the memory of the insecure feeling, from where you noticed it in your body, to how it felt to amplify that sensation in your body, and especially how it felt to go to the opposite sensation, the opposite posture in your body. So I'll give you a couple minutes to write down any thoughts, feelings, memories, or experience that you had from doing this exercise. I'll give you 2 minutes. One more minute. and start wrapping up your writing. And please finish your writing and come back. Okay, thank you for going there with me. All right, take another deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And we're going to do this a few more times, and every time you exhale, I want you to relax your jaw and your belly. Okay, so inhale. Exhale, relaxing your jaw and your belly. Again, inhale. And exhale, relaxing your jaw and your belly. And now, close your eyes once again. And exhale, relaxing your jaw and your belly. And keeping your eyes closed, I'm going to take you on a journey into your inner child, to your little one. And using the realm of imagination, we're going to talk to that little part of you who never got to feel fully the feelings that came up when some negative experience happened to them. And we're going to validate their feelings, and we're going to give that little one a chance to ask for what they want. And this activity, if done with an open heart and sincerity, can actually significantly decrease the volatility of certain triggers or buttons, so that if that button gets pushed again in the future, it won't trigger you into a place of fight, flight, or freeze. It will be much softer. So keep breathing. And I want you to remember an experience in your current relationship or one of your other relationships in your life or a past recent relationship where you felt like you were going to be abandoned, or you felt like you were so afraid of losing your partner that you just didn't want to be alone. Afraid of being alone, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of being just rejected. So see if you can remember a feeling that you've had recently. I'm going to give you a chance to remember a situation. Maybe you're currently feeling it. You're afraid of being abandoned, afraid of being rejected, afraid of being alone. Okay, when you have that memory, really feel that. Go back to that memory as if it's happening now. Amplify that memory. And again, notice where it lives in your body. What's the sensation in your body? And if you're alone, you can say it out loud. Where is it in your body? It's in my heart, or it's in my gut, or it's in my throat, or it's in my genitals. Notice where it is. And notice if it's a tingling sensation, or a burning sensation, or piercing, or a numbness. Okay, the next step is I want you to try and remember a time when you were younger, preferably younger than 10. A time when you felt this same way when you were little, where you had that same sensation, that same feeling in your body that you're having now. Okay, try and remember when you were under the age of 10, when you had a similar feeling to this, and let your psyche present you with a memory and trust that your psyche won't give you a memory that you can't manage now. However traumatic it was, it's coming up now because you can deal with it. Okay, when you have that memory of when you were little, I want you to just sit with that memory for a moment. And I'm going to ask you, how old are you? How old were you when you had this memory? Okay, do you have the age? Okay, now I want you to, in your mind's eye, imagine this little version of you. See if it has a name that might be different from the name you use now. For me, it's Chrissy. That's my child's name. What is your child's name? So in your mind's eye, see that child who's hurting, who's afraid of being abandoned or rejected or not wanted or left alone. And as your adult, from your adult perspective, I want you to tell your child that you understand how they feel. Just repeat after me. Say, I totally understand how you feel. Anyone would feel the way you feel in the circumstances you had. Anyone would feel that way. I totally get it. It totally makes sense that you feel this way. I understand. And now notice how that child feels. Notice if their nervous system seems to relax a little hearing those validating comments. Notice if maybe tears are coming from that deep inner child place. Notice if the child feels a little more safe, or if they're still not quite trusting you because this is the first time that you validated them. And now I want you to ask that little one what they want. They may not know, it might take a moment, but just know that the little one, we're in the realm of imagination, so they can have anything they want right now. They could have a puppy pile of puppies all around, literal puppies. They could have a snuggle pile with humans. They could have a big teddy bear. They could have, they could rewrite the scene that caused them to feel abandoned. They could have somebody from Child Protective Services take their abusive parent away, or they could have a trusting aunt or uncle come and take the abusive parent away, so that they don't have to see them anymore, but they know their parent is safe. They could get a hug from somebody that they didn't get a hug from when this happened. The sky's the limit on what this child can have right now. They can be allowed to go back into their room and sleep. They can have an angel come down from above and take them away and take them to a magical place where there's unicorns and rainbows. Just know that the sky's the limit. This child can ask for anything they want right now. So ask them what they want, and I'm going to give you a minute to let the child answer, and then I'm going to let you give that to the child. Give them the exact thing that they're asking for. I'll give you a minute to have this experience. Okay. So I want you to bow to this child now and thank them for showing up with you and showing you how beautiful and magical you were as a child. And for the sake of time, we're going to come back out. And I want you to come back into your adult perspective. Take a deep breath. And open your eyes. And I want you to get your journal when the workshop is over. I want you to write about what this experience was like for you. What was it like to visit that child and to give them a chance to ask for exactly what they wanted? And you can do this with yourself anytime. I invite you to use this activity and trust that your psyche will bring you the memory that you most are able to work with. Okay. We need to close because we're out of time, but I just want to let you know that you can reach me at sumatisparks@gmail.com. Please feel free to email me with any questions, or if you want to share with me what you learned in your writing. My website also is sumatisparks.com. And feel free to visit my website and apply for a consultation with me if you'd like to speak to me on Zoom. Or no charge to email me. Let me know what this experience was like for you and if you have any questions. And I promise I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I wish you nothing but transformation and abundant love.